during COVID, when we were all talking about the transformation on the digital transformation, we started a series called Dialogue with the Educationists. And we have taken very interesting topics like, say, who is failing? Is the education system failing, or the students are failing? So we've got amazing, tremendous response. But later again, once the schools have started back, we also had to kind of go back to the schools. But now what I realized was, after the schools have started working back in the offline mode, still there is a lot of transformation is happening, and I really wanted to bring that to the limelight. I wanted to showcase what's happening around. And again, when I wanted to kind of start this back, then we thought, why don't we reinitiate? And this time we are with a much bigger force called the BrightTalks. In fact, this is the launch and inaugural session. This is the first episode of the BrightTalks. So this is going to happen on every Saturday from morning 11 to 12, and it's streaming across all the media platforms of BrightCHAMPS. So a lot of people are watching it live. Few of them I've asked them to join the Zoom session so that they can also take part in the Q&A sessions. So starting with the today's topic, I said, nurturing next generation innovators. There is a very interesting part called why there. I mean, how is, of course, we'll get to know more in the panel discussions. A lot of people are asking me, why are you talking about why? Why do we have to nurture next generation innovators? So it's going to be a very interesting topic. We are going to debate on that. Uh, uh, and of course, you all will get to know where we can nurture the next generation innovators, but why and how is something that we are going to debate more. Of course, I have interacted with all of you earlier, with all of your institutions, at least, we have interacted, but I'm sure that, the kind of insights and the experience that you bring onto the table is immense, and I want to leverage on that. So, before we begin the panel discussions, I've already to set the context on nurturing the next generation innovators. We have one keynote speaker today, Mr. Christopher Scott, who is the director of Nord Anglia India. So, Chris, we welcome you. Thank you so much for joining the session. And if at all you share some insights on how can we nurture the next generation innovators, and you have seen like good parts of the globe so far. So, if at all you can also give some insights on the landscape of how the innovation at schools are happening, that will be really grateful. Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Hello to everybody. So as was hinted earlier, I'm relatively new to India. I started this job 9 months ago, and then I arrived in India 6 months ago yesterday. So I'm sort of getting to know the local landscape. I work with the Oak Ridge schools here. So we have 5 schools, 2 here in Hyderabad, 1 in Bangalore, 1 up in Mohali, and 1 across in Vizag. So I'm also privileged to be able to travel around India, and then I've also managed to do a little bit of personal travel as well. So it's been a busy 6 months, and I was delighted to be asked today. As you may know, it's Coronation Day in Britain, so that's the rest of my day after I finished talking to you to sort of catch up and see what's happening there. But no, I think I just want to go back to something that Pavan said there, which was why we touched on just as he went past, why do we need to encourage the next generation to innovate? And I think it's an obvious answer, but I think it's worth saying, and possibly today is the right day to say it, because obviously in Britain we're going to go back to something that's thousands of years old, etc., etc. It's actually probably not as old as people say it is, but it's obviously based in tradition. But obviously, outside of that, we also had an election this week. So in Britain, so we've had sort of both ends of the leadership dilemma, if you like. But both things sort of take us away from obviously some current problems and some future problems that are going to come along. And I think that's the why for me. We've got to tap into the generation that are around at the moment, the young generation, because they're going to be the ones that come up with the solutions. They're the ones that have to live in with it. The thing I would say, because obviously we've been encouraging innovators for years now. The thing I would say is that the next generation have probably got a little bit of inbuilt advantages when it comes to innovation. You know, they don't necessarily have a big buy-in to hierarchy or structure or formality. You know, as we discovered over COVID, they don't necessarily, or they adapted very well to the fact that office life had to change. You know, and innovation obviously happens far better in whether it's an online forum such as this, or whether it's a breakout room in a sort of modernly designed office than people sitting in cubicles or people, you know, doing the traditional 9 to 5. You know, we're having a big conversation within North Anglia Education on dress code, because most of our schools until recently have come from a sort of British tradition where we tend to wear ties and suits and things like that. And then somebody turned around one day and said, how does that actually make you teach any better? And then, of course, you come to a country like India where people don't do that, and you think, yeah, fair enough, that's a good question. So, you know, we now have that all around the world. And I think the next generation, and I think about my own children. I've got 2 children in their sort of early 20s. You know, they're aware of the world. I feel they're far more aware of the challenges of the world than I was. They're certainly far more acute to the issues around inequality and around making sure that we are inclusive across gender, across race, across, you know, every other issue. I think they genuinely understand the impact that we have on the planet. I think we've all realized that in the last 30, 40 years. I was telling a story at graduations that I've spoken at in the last couple of weeks that, you know, I remember at school getting very excited because I'd moved over to recycled paper and I was going to single-handedly change the world. But if I'm being honest, I probably drifted away a little bit. Whereas I think the current generation realise that they haven't got time to do that. They do need to get on and do something about it. And then I think the current generation realise that that skills are needed alongside qualifications. You know, qualifications are important and will be important. We had a speaker at an event down at our school in Bangalore about 3 weeks ago, and she suggested that in years to come, companies would only look for skills. The one she was talking about was resilience. I'm not sure about that. I think qualifications, you know, will always have some form. It might be that they change slightly, and we know that you know, curricula around the world, including here in India, are changing to sort of understand that. But certainly the next generation or the current generation of young people seem to understand that those skills are needed. And I think there's an innate, and possibly it's just summing up the things that I've just said, I think there's an innate curiosity in the world, whether that's fueled by technology and access to being able to look at things. You know, I find it quite, I moved to Dubai in 1993 as a sort of young teacher, and I was actually very lucky. My father had an office in Dubai, bizarrely, so he had people who could ask around, you know, the school I was looking to go to and where I was going to live and all those sorts of things. And you sit and listen to current teachers on social media or whatever and see the level of research that they do. And the level of research that my daughter put into going to university was far beyond anything I used to do. And I actually, for 10 years, was a university guidance counsellor. And it's just, that was many years ago. So I think that innate curiosity, that innate ability to go along and sort of find out about the world is great. The problem, of course, we've got as people in education or as future employers is we haven't necessarily been brought up in this world. So, you know, we've got to keep our minds open to this. You know, we've got to not be scared of failure. We've got to appreciate that there's a different level of hierarchy, a different level of how we approach work. And I think, you know, we ultimately, you know, we know. And I'm making assumptions. I only know one of the other people in the panel, but you know, we know the importance of us learning to learn. We know that whatever we've dealt with in our lives hasn't been taught to us in school necessarily. We've just got the skills to cope with it. And I think we've got to just remember that that's what we've got to do. And I was talking to some friends of mine yesterday. I said I was doing this presentation today, or this discussion today. And one of my friends, exactly the same age as me, kids are a little bit younger than me, he said, well, it's just about giving people the tools to create their own path rather than creating the path for themselves. So I thought that summed it up quite nicely, and I promised him I'd quote him this morning. So there are my brief thoughts on what is a thorny topic.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for setting the context. I think already the transformation has begun, and yeah, I mean, just one question to you, right? I mean, you mentioned a point on the failure. So, I mean, what kind of measures that you as a brand are looking at to accept the failures from the student, right? I mean, how are you acting as a cushion for the student failure? So, are there any unheard stories that you are, introducing in the schools or things like that?
Yeah, I think failure can come into a number of different attitudes, a number of different areas. I think that, for me, as a school leader, I think you're looking to make sure that you have a policy around school behavior, for example. And I use the word behavior in its broadest sense, to make sure that you're encouraging people. Yes, you're providing that feedback. So if you feel there's some sorts of behaviors that are not going to be helpful to somebody in the future, then you've got that feedback. But I think that's acknowledgement that and this is probably, this is an attitude that I've had for my 30 years working in education, that, being a young person is the time to make those mistakes, and sort of understanding that, that's not in any way saying that people need a free for all, in terms of behavior, in terms of their approach to academics, whatever it is, but it's just not being scared to have a go, and coming back, and sort of learning from that, really. I think, for me, it's when a student or a colleague or whatever is making, or myself, to be honest, you're making the same mistake over and over again. That's when you start to go, hang about, there's something going on there. And there are many quotes about repeating things and trying to expect something to come out of it. And, one of my colleagues, who's our sort of regional finance guy, he tells a really good story of one of the banks, that one of their traders lost millions. So, he went in expecting, the trader went in expecting to be fired. And his boss said, well, are you going to do it again? And he went, no, because I know what I did wrong. Well, what's the point in firing you? You're going to go and take that learning into another company, and, you're not going to do it again. Whereas I'm going to replace you with somebody who might make the mistake again. So for me, it's just that approach and that sort of safety net, if you like. And you do have to get the balance right. You obviously can't give people a carte blanche just to wander around expecting failure or looking for failure, whatever it is. But knowing that if somebody's put something together, and they feel that, and especially if it's something new, that it needs fine tuning or it hasn't quite worked out, then that would be supported rather than punished, for one of the phrase.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. Once again, thanks for setting the context. Now let us open the panel on that note. Right. I mean, let me introduce the panel first. We have 4 esteemed school leaders in this panel. We have Ms. Hema Chennupaty, ma'am. She has worked in Hyderabad, and now she's working with RP Goenka School in Kolkata, and she's been in the process of our metamorphosis. In fact, we have metamorphosized, while working with her. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the Bright Talks. We have
Thank
Ms.
you.
Yes, we have Ms. Alka Singh, ma'am. She's from the Bluebell School, Gurgaon. Hello, ma'am.
Good morning. Namaskar.
Good morning, ma'am. We have Ms. Shruti Sharma, ma'am, from Delhi International School. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the Bright Talks.
Thank you
And
so
we
much.
have Dr. Manjula Raman, ma'am, from the Sherwood School, Bangalore. Hello, ma'am. A very good morning.
Hello, everyone. Good
Yes.
morning.
Yes, so we will keep this, this entire panel discussion very informal and candid, so that, in fact, all our parents and students can follow what we are actually talking about. So again, let me start with defining the title itself, right? I'm nurturing the next generation innovators. Why and how? So we'll start with how now, and why we should nurture them is something that we will keep it in our second leg of our discussion. So how, right? I mean, let me start with Hema ma'am. So you have seen thousands of students, graduating every day, and you have seen thousands of people like us coming and trying to nurture the innovations and all. So what is your take so far in the last 2 3 years, how the landscape has been transformed in terms of innovation, how your priorities over academics has been kind of changing from completely academic oriented to the innovation oriented methodologies or the way that we are teaching now.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Pawan, and hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. Uh, it's been a while since we've done webinars, so we get a while to get used to this again. So in terms of why and how we are doing what we are doing, of course, one of the major things that has changed is children taking up ownership of their own learning as they grow older. The agency which the IB programs are trying to implement within children has taken on in a big way. It's something that teachers are actively promoting in classrooms as well. So when that comes in, obviously we have to keep up to date and give them the platform in which they can innovate, they can move ahead, they can see a future which is completely their own and not something that is, uh, a well-laid path which everyone has followed before them. So as a school, of course, as leaders, we have to bring in those programs, identify the need from time to time, and ensure that our children are getting onto these different platforms and doing what they're supposed to do. Keeping the parents informed and updated is also very, very important, because without the parent support till a certain age, the children cannot move forward. So keeping the parents on board is also very important. Uh, in my recent context that I'm in, where I'm moving cities and moving schools and starting up a new school, the way we are approaching it is so different from what I had been doing all this while. Working with a well-established school like Oak Ridge was very different, and we have children who have grown with us, and we know exactly what they are capable of and can do. The defining programs or introducing programs is that much easier. We know our teachers' strengths, we know our children's requirements, we can do it. But when we're going in a completely clean slate kind of situation, how do we and what do we plan for our children? So it is tricky. But at the same time, it's also very adventurous, because, like I said, the clean slate always is encouraging to put in whatever you want there. So when we were designing the schools and the rooms, and we said, oh, there's no need for a computer lab. All children have devices with them. We don't need an ICT lab or a room. We need robotics and coding centers and STEAM and STEM and all. So makers labs and things like that. So when we're discussing those things so naturally, instead of with the basics of do the children know this or do the children know that, we automatically assume that all these are part of the framework of a child's life already. So how are we going to enhance it further is what we have to be worried about. So we keep this often used phrase of children being digital natives. I think that's something that we sometimes forget, because we ourselves are not digital natives. We've had to adopt to technology, but children were born into it. So it's that much easier for them to understand. It's that much easier for us to ensure that we provide them with the right kind of platforms.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think you have added three major aspects to this. One is the students themselves taking up the ownership. You have brought in the perspective of the parents, and you have also talked about the need for the innovation these days. Let me go to Alka ma'am on, one of the dimensions what Hema ma'am has opened up is the expectations from the parents, right? I mean, say, how is this varying from year on year, right? I mean, uh, definitely say a decade ago, of course, everything was academics. Later, sports plus academics. Now, sports plus academics plus innovation has become, three major factors that every child should be imbibed with. So, how is that transformation happening on the parenting aspect?
Okay, thank you so much. And once again, I would say good morning to each one out here. Yes, there is a change in the expectation. The reason is the generation has changed. If we talk about this new generation, the alpha generation, so automatically when we are talking about the parents, give me 1 second. So when we're talking about the parents, they're also new generation parents. They're not like the parents who would come and say that, we want marks. Now, the difference is what they say is to make them ready for the employment market. So that's, I think, the change what we see. Recently, when we're talking about, if I talk about Bluebells, so therefore we had started off with an entrepreneurship cell almost 2 years back. The response initially was just few students. And like 4 years back, we started with a design thinking fair, like a challenge. I had 32 students because the parents said, are you sure this is going to help them out? They saw the results, and the next year, there were almost 300 plus. I would like to share that this year, from grade 3 to grade 12, there are more than 1,000 projects what they're going to put up right now. It's on 13th of this month. The changes, because without the parents' support, we do not get that. So they understand right now that the dynamics have changed. It is not like the rote learning which used to go on. They would keep checking out, is the homework done? You're not sending the homework. It's different now. They're talking about what projects are you going to take up? They do not talk about the projects what we used to make, the hard bound projects. They say what kind of projects, what kind of research is going to go on? Can a student be a part of this innovation? So that's they also understand the VUCA world. And at Bluebells, what we keep doing is we keep getting, resource person who at times, there's certain parents who are not that updated. Keep them updating, like terms like we had this conversation about gig economy in our school. And we invited 4 or 5 parents out there saying that, okay, let's discuss with the students of grade 9 to 12, as well as the parents out there. This is where I see a major change, which was not there previously. So personally, what I feel is that now it's like a collaboration. This design fair, what we are having last year, there were 5 parents who walked up and they said, we're going to fund the projects. These are the students who have won awards, cash awards at many places. The reason is because the parents funded those projects. So if you look at it right now, before stepping into a university, they have an employment out there, the employment ready. So I think that's one major change what we see. And seated out here in Gurgaon, it's little different. I would say that all of us as educators, this is what we also trying to do, is that we always try to incorporate the other schools where they do not have that kind of opportunities. So all of us also should provide these these opportunities to the other school students also. That's also one part I would like to add on. Thank you so much.
I think this is a wonderful idea, ma'am. If at all the schools that can accommodate innovation, and if those becomes hubs for any child, if at all they become the co-working zones for any student to come innovate, display their ideas or learn, I think that is the real transformation. I think we have seen that.
Sorry for intervening. I'd just like to add on one thing.
Yeah.
See, CBSE right now, almost 33 skill subjects they have introduced. And they've asked the schools to be skill hubs. So like, for example, our school is a skill hub for bakery, because we have an amazing home science lab, fashion studies lab. And what we are doing when we talk about skill hubs, it is you are inviting elders also, and even students from underprivileged society to be a part of these school hubs. It's after school project what has been taken up. So it's all that we all need to take it up. That's very critical.
Got it. I think this is a really good insight. In fact, for all the people that are watching or people who missed out on this also, I'll be sharing this clip. I think the schools can become skill hubs, schools that can accommodate this. I think that's going to be a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, Alka ma'am. I think you have opened up a very new dimension in this talk. Shruti ma'am, I think today you are having one inauguration on the innovation cell, and I mean, what is your vision on adding up to the skill hubs, right? I mean, where do you see this innovation growing to, and till what extent that you would like to support to the student innovations, or what is it that you are expecting from the fellow educators or people say from BrightCHAMPS? Like, what is it that we can do together?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Good morning, everybody. So very apt day for me to talk about this because as Pawan has already stated, so we have sessions and the session is still going on with the parents wherein we are talking about the BrightCHAMPS. So I would state that students are the one who are the best innovators because they have been from the prime and the premium times told us how not to do the homework, and still as teachers and educators, we accept their apologies and we accept their excuses for not doing the homework. So the innovation actually erupts from that point in time wherein their energies need to be channelized. And as Alka ma'am has very rightly stated, that we as educators, as schools, we can become the hubs not only for spreading academics, but also the hub for spreading empathy, because through these skills, we would be generating collaboration and empathy across everybody. So how we can do this? I have a very simple idea, like most of the schools, they run a canteen. So why don't we impart the, maybe for a week or maybe for 2 weeks or a month, we can impart that entrepreneurship skill to the children, wherein they have to jot down the meal plan, how it would be done, how do they serve the children in the school, how do they serve the teachers, and also prepare the entire budget for a week and understand the life skill of running a canteen. Another could be that during the summer camp, because summer is around the corner and the schools would be running the summer camps, so we can work in collaboration and exchange our faculties as well, because that is going to be a learning for all of us. So probably Alka ma'am, Manjula ma'am and Hema ma'am, who have their skilled faculties, can give us their faculties as the logistics work, and we can exchange our faculties with them and have small sessions, because as you know that NEP is also into existence and it's focusing a lot on skill development. So we have to work hand in hand, and we have to instill, because only if we do what we say, we need to be the role models for our children. So if we collaborate, if we talk about empathy, if we run in our schools the camps and subdomains of how and what I can do it at DIS for the others, and likewise the others can do at their particular centers, and then I think the collaboration and the plans can be super hit, not only starting the startups within the schools, but across the schools as well. So that would be my take. Thank you.
Awesome, ma'am. I think the collaboration amongst the schools and also the exchange of the skills amongst the schools, because I visit a lot of schools. In fact, in a year, at least I visit about 200 schools, and the kind of strength that each school has is completely, mutually exclusive. And if that exchange can happen, I think the innovation amongst the learners, in fact, the teachers' innovations can also happen with this thing. I think that's a great thought. Thank you, ma'am. Coming to Dr. Manjula, ma'am, thanks for joining again. And we spoke about the parents aspect, the students aspect, and also Alka ma'am has talked a very interesting dimension on NEP, and how we can create hubs on our own and nurture innovation. So just want to know about, are the schools ready for, in fact, I mean schools in the sense the entire stakeholders, right? Like say the teachers, the parents, the students. Are we ready to kind of let go of few things and give more weightage to the innovations?
Yeah, thank you, Pawan. I think the first person who is ready is the student. And many a times the school underestimates them, In a recent discussion when I had with my students, just as a council member, the beautiful ideas they came up for the school was absolutely amazing. For example, when we're talking to children, they're very interested about digital money now. I mean, they're far, far ahead of the teachers. They are far ahead of some of them, even their parents. And they have a set goal. This is as young as grade 6 or 7, where, they've started thinking of, when you talk to a kid today, the child doesn't say that, well, I do not know what I want to become. It's a very clear mind, I want to go into sports, I want to get into drumming, or I want to be an entrepreneur. So I think the first person who's ready, and we all have to start planning for them, is the child. The child is ready. I think we've come at a place, the most exciting time in the educational sector now in India, that, the thought processes are so innovative, so open, so transparent. So the child is ready. The parent is almost ready, because if the parent has put the child in your school, he's got his aspirations. He's looking for certain things to happen in the school. And if the school is innovating, then the parent is quiet about it and just wants to be a stakeholder or a silent bystander and wants to support the school. Teachers, yes, they would require a bit of training. Right. They need to come out of that comfort zone that it was all about curriculum. Right. We have to expand the curriculum. Curriculum is not the books assigned by one of the boards or NCERT or the books that we choose. Curriculum is much, much beyond that. Curriculum is getting them ready with skills, as my co-panelist says. Curriculum is making them independent thinkers. It's only when they are independent thinkers, there is a certain amount of freedom to them to innovate. Can we have children who will become innovators of tomorrow? So if you ask me if the world is ready, absolutely. We're just ready to jump.
Thank you, ma'am. So, now say, Hema ma'am, adding up to what Manjula ma'am was talking about is from this, right. From the NEP aspect, a lot of new initiatives have come, right? I mean, we're all talking about the new age skills that we'll have to teach. And also, Manjula ma'am has taken new dimension on the teachers aspect, right? Last time I remember, I think during COVID, when we were having webinar, we were talking about why can't we have innovation for teachers as well, right? So do you think that the vision of making everyone to think entrepreneurial or making the student innovators right from the school, can it be achieved through the teachers themselves, or is there a huge support that we require from say external agencies where they come and set up innovation labs? Or like on scale of 0 to 10, where are we in terms of making the teachers only to nurture more innovators?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think it has two aspects. One is now that I'm in two cities, which city are we talking about? Okay, so it depends on the skill sets available in teachers in a certain place, right? That's important. Second thing is, even if we do get the teachers to train them, reskill them or upskill them and all that, it's very difficult to get into that niche area where they can actually, add value to a child's life through innovation. So we would need experts there. So it has to be a collaboration between the existing teachers, because they bring in the nurturing part, and then you have your trained people who will bring in the the expertise. So it has to be the way technology works now. Children are very, very tech savvy, of course, as you know. Before the problem is out there, they're on their devices finding solutions, and and it's an instant gratification. It's not, oh, let's work towards the solution as we want the solution as soon as possible. So they are in that space. So for us to guide them, coach them, mentor them, and keep them focused on their work is as important as giving them the skills of wanting to innovate, wanting to make things happen immediately as well. So it has to be a proper collaboration between the teachers and all. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say probably the teachers, and it again depends on the individual. Some are fairly tech savvy. They could probably be at a 7 or an 8, and then there are a whole bunch of people who are at a 4 or a 5. So then how do we understand, how do we ensure that everyone is on the same page? Yes, the teacher training part is so important. At the same time, having experts in the school is also just as important.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. So Alka ma'am, I mean, now talking about, say, because you're already having innovation cells or entrepreneurship cells that is there. In fact, I visited the school. I have seen the enthusiasm amongst the students. Just wanted to know what will be the incentive for any innovator, right? I mean, say Hema ma'am has talked about that if at all we train the teachers, it can still happen. But for example, I am a student and then I come up with amazing innovations. But if at all I spend the same time in mathematics or chemistry, my grades will definitely grow better, and probably my resume will look much more beautiful. But what, where do we see the incentivization policies here, right? I mean, I'm an innovator, but I don't see any innovation. I'm a teacher who wants to nurture more innovators, but I don't see any incentive here. So, any thoughts or ideas on this, on how do we incentivize?
See, firstly, what I feel right now is when you're talking about incentive, if I'm an innovator as a student, I'm talking about Bluewells right now. So the platform what we give, the first platform what I'm giving is to the class they present. So, that kind of thrill, or I would say that kind of high what the child gets, and he's motivated. And one more thing I would like to say right now is that we do not take innovation in isolation. Innovation is collaborative with academics. There's nothing like innovation separately. Whatever they're doing is we pick from the topics what we are teaching them. And then we say, okay, simple design thinking process, what one of the members out here, they were talking about empathy. So we say, okay, empathize. Well, can you check around? A very beautiful example I'll give is grade 5 I'd gone and I asked that, okay, are you participating in FutureX? They said, yes, ma'am. So what are you doing? Ma'am, our teacher has to move around to put the duster back. Do you get that? So we're going to make something such that our teacher puts it out there itself. I could have done that. But then look at the thought. So that gratification is an incentive, point one. The point two is that what we do is, like, we have this child who started off, the first project what he made was during pandemic. He was very empathetic. So he started off with Jeev Raksha application. In pandemic, the animals were left. So he made that application where people could report and so on. And finally, last year's FutureX, let's see what he's going to do, right? His name is Karan Lakhani in our school. So he made a prosthetic limb for the animals. For the school, what it did is, one is we recognized him on a bigger, very big platform, something like an annual function. A cash award was given to the child. And he was like, not only when we're talking Bluebells, he went to BITS Pilani, he got an award. He went to IIT Mumbai, he got an award. So, and everything funded by the school. It's not like the parents have to do anything. So therefore, if you look at this, is this not an incentive? And now I go to the teachers. Just a few days back, we had this ChatGPT workshop for the teachers. So I was telling them one very simple thing. I said, when we are talking about, these students, they're going to have a very different kind of, work or employability, and the skill sets, what we require. At times, as teachers, we do not know those skill sets also. We do not know what we are preparing the students for. It has never been so dynamic the way it is right now. Never been so dynamic. Today it is there. Just a few days back, if you look at the news, it says IBM layoffs 8,300 people. Why? But I kept telling, do not take it like a negative thing. They said 12% laid off, but they also said 10% employment increased. So what are we getting prepared for? That is AI. So if we are innovators, we can be innovators provided we are perfect with AI, we are coders, we are design thinkers. So now the culture, so it's such a beautiful culture in our school. Anything, and they say design thinking. That's how they, treat any problem, any event, anywhere. So the incentive itself is the school going up. If the institution grows, automatically we all are growing. So I personally feel that's an incentive. Apart from that, we recognize our teachers for their ideas and, the innovations, what they do in the class. And whatever, even if they're taking up, for example, now in FutureX, we are having angel investors, all these people in this time. It's like a grand thing what we're trying to do. So the incentive is the class where the teacher has created those innovators. So she would be recognized in different manners. One is officially, one is financially. So I think that's important, everyone wants acknowledgement. So incentive is like an acknowledgement, and it acts like magic. One appreciation, so it acts like magic. This is my thought on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think one of the ideas that I also had earlier was right now, say for our employees, I mean, we call them as micro entrepreneurs. So we have something called as ESOPs, right? Employee Stock Options Program. So even if at all we bring that to the teachers or the students, right? I mean, probably if at all we all introduce something called as TSOPs, Teacher Stock Options Program, with the student ideas. I think that's going to be a really
That's
wonderful.
a brilliant idea. Seriously, a brilliant idea.
Right. So I think that is one thing that we should look at, appreciating the teachers. So Shruti ma'am, I wanted to know on how soon is soon to talk about innovation, right? I mean, say right now, Alka ma'am was talking about the VUCA world. Things are very much volatile. Uncertain. We are talking about layoffs. The kids are watching those news, and definitely the minute we see that the startups are shutting down or the economic recessions are happening, definitely there will be 2 or 3 thoughts come into our mind that we don't want to kind of get into again more uncertainty by starting something on our own. So talking about entrepreneurship innovation, do you think it's too soon? Can they kind of handle that emotional intelligence as well?
See, when we talk about how soon or is it so soon, so it would also depend upon with what perspective are you looking at this? Are you a student? So is it soon for a child or a student or a learner? Is it yet so soon for the parents because they're still not prepared, as the co-panelists have already stated? Some are, some are not.
Right.
We need to bridge that gap. And for the teachers, of course, the teachers do not only carry, and I'll be very honest stating this, teachers do not only carry this innovative part in the class because every day they are innovators. They
Right.
have to make the teaching learning interesting, only then the students are going to be glued and
Right.
allured towards the teaching. But they also have to carry the weightage of completing the curriculum, making and doing the annual productions. So they are carrying a lot on their shoulders already. So with the perspective of the teacher also, you have to actually sit with the stakeholders and understand. So is it so soon for us, or is it the only way that I can talk about over here is to integrate it with the curriculum, and all schools are already doing it. So when you already have economics in your classes, when you already have geography in your classes, why can't we integrate the innovations with the curriculum? All schools have the annual calendars. So why don't we relate the project building or the art integration or the skill development for every grade? Maybe they do one project and we then diversify into different subjects and integrate it so that the students don't feel burdened and it is not so soon for them. The teachers don't feel that burden that they have to do another task during the deadline. And the parents are also encouraging the innovation. So that is very important if we go hand in hand with all the things together, all the stakeholders. But we cannot lose our concentration on the academics because we're educators first. So how to build innovation through education and how to bridge those gaps, I feel would be very important. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. There is.
Yeah, we can see you. You go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I had already shared my views as to collaboration and integration of the skills with the curriculum because every subject is required for any innovation. So we have to actually have a lot more orientation programs with the parents, with the students to make them understand that this is not something extra that we are doing and we are not giving any extra load on the shoulders of the teachers, but everything is integrated. So that would help.
Right. So adding on to that, Manjula ma'am, so integration with the curriculum, right? It's a very interesting dimension, but how is it going to work, right? I mean, we have limited time and we have academics implications, we have sports and innovation. So if you were to introduce this as an integrated curriculum, I mean, what weightage would you be giving for innovation or entrepreneurship or 21st century skills?
See, we cannot have a divided kind of a curriculum. it has to be an ongoing process. We just can't say that in the month of February, we're going to be entrepreneurs and the rest of the time we're going to concentrate on academics. So it has to start right from the zero level, that may be the KG, where, you know, we are helping children to save, to do little chores at home, the parents paying them, you know, they keeping things, recycling. So these are all innovations and entrepreneur skills. Similarly, when there's a school carnival, because most of our schools will have the school fest, yearly school fest. Now we have a gourmet club of the school, which is part of our what you call the activities, the CCA. So that gourmet club, you know, prepares certain things, and the you know, the proceeds towards that is either given on charity or recycled into some, you know, like for example, one of my co-panelists said that theirs is a you know, hub for bakery. So if a school is good at baking, they have teachers who are good at baking and children who are interested in it. So we could set up a baking unit in the school, and that becomes a, similarly after school, you know, when children, they do work, like for example, we have a lot of work in the school also, like this library, the actual books library has not gone out of you know, fashion. We still have books, so those have to be bound. There are you know, papers which have to be you know, recycled, and so we could have small plants in the school where after school, even half an hour, a child contributes to that and earns a living. So what happens, it won't be a living, it would be a little pocket money for them. In our school, what we did is, during this vacation now, all those kids who wanted to go for entrepreneurship, we gave them a seed money of 5,000 rupees. They came with a business plan. We had a team of people who, ex-students, who are business you know, people. They came and mentored there, and each one came up with a new idea. Now, when the school will reopen, they will come up with the profits that they made. And if they made a loss, the school won't take back that 5,000 seed money. But if they made a profit, the profit is theirs, the seed money comes back to the school. So I would think that at every stage, even the orientation, you know, now most of the schools will reopen when it's rainy season. So, you know, if we have a small green patch, we are growing certain herbal plants, and that is sold to parents who come on orientation. You know, there's a canteen set up by the students, you know, for example, small cupcakes or anything, small little toffees or something. So I think the whole process will be an ongoing process, and it will start right from the KG class. I'm sorry, there's a lot of din here because my neighboring house is getting demolished. So yeah, so I would think it's an ongoing process. And when we make our yearly planners, integrating entrepreneurship, innovations, integration of subjects will have to be done collaboratively between all the teachers. You know, we cannot have lesson 1 integrated to lesson 1 of social science, lesson 2 of science. We'll have to see the whole academic program and then integrate certain lessons together, and then make plans for the year. So I would think the academic plan will have to be so well planned out that entrepreneurship, innovations, the new way of thinking ahead, design thinking, is all integrated into it.
Interesting. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now we'll open up for a few questions. I've got few questions from the platform. Is there a way to measure the innovation in a school? Can anyone take this up? I mean, Hema ma'am, if at all you can help us with, is there a way to measure?
So innovation is the creative. I mean, it's part of the, you know, the way of it's a culture of the school, and innovation is how you each child views it. So I don't think it's something that you can measure, and I don't think we should put that dimension to it as well. Yes, there are, if there is a specific task given and how they find a solution for it, yes, that can be measured probably in the effectiveness and how much of, you know, the cost factor involved and all of that. But in terms of creativity, I think, how do we measure that? I've not, I don't think I would support that actually. Yeah.
Okay. Alka ma'am, you have any thoughts on the same?
I also feel the same, that you cannot be measuring it. But I think
Right.
you know, the environment, the culture, the change what you see. You can
Right.
always rate it. As we rate, we say, okay, you know, the innovation level of a class. Let's say the grade 9, grade 10. So we can rate it like on 10 on 8 or 9 on 8, something like, 9 on 10 or 8 on 10, something like that we can always say. But there's no specific measure to it. It's the energy. I think it's how people are vibrating, the complete vibrations around. That is what matters.
Right.
Thank you.
Ma'am, so if at all, as a parent, if at all I want to see, which say, for example, in Hyderabad, for startups, we have a lot of incubators, and then we kind of see what kind of activities are happening, and we would like to get incubated in, say, one of the incubation platforms. So is there any way that at least the kind of activities that are happening in the school, for a parent to take a better decision to kind of admit their children, apart from showcasing the clubs, are we already getting there? Because one of the first things that parents are also going to see is what kind of extracurricular activities are happening in the school. So Shruti ma'am, if at all you can help me in this, right? I mean, how can we show some tangibility to the parent that we are doing these kind of innovation activities in the school?
So, Pawan, what I feel is that when you're talking about rating and showcasing, I think the ones who have participated, it also depends what resources a particular person had. You cannot measure the resource availability and the availability of the parents and contribution of the parents by everybody at the same level. So that also should be kept in mind. So the concept of maybe the learning walls can come up, where I know the schools, because they work a lot on the decor and how the school is upkeep, but be it a good, showcasing of a good work, or maybe it is an average work, or it is a high class work, or maybe it is not that apt work, but I think to showcase the work of every individual is very important. So maybe if A person has done something in Hindi which is not at par with B person, what that person has done in mathematics, it should also be put up, because the child has done that effort with the restricted resources that a particular child had. Also, maybe the contribution by the parents of B child was much more in comparison, and maybe they were first generation learners in case of A. So they should not be felt demotivated. They should not be feeling, oh my God, if I had these resources, I would have done that much. So I think every individual's work may be certain in Hindi, maybe certain in English, maybe certain in entrepreneurship, maybe certain in robotics. That should be showcased in every classroom. Every individual has to be encouraged, would be my thought. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, ma'am. Manjula ma'am, there is one question on NEP, right? So they're saying, who is getting more benefited out of NEP? Is it the managements of the schools or the students? So is there any direct implication of NEP for the children, right? I mean, say, for example, they were talking about certain skills like say, digital literacy, financial literacy, and all of those, right? So in what way the school management is also getting benefited by introducing these kind of skills, right? Because finding the right talent to introduce this skill set is also not so easy. So how is that being aligned?
I think, educational institutes per se are not profit-making companies, number one. They are investing on human resources, children. And the NEP is totally driven to the benefit of that resource, that is the children. And the management in ways of running a school, they have given the infrastructure, they have a vision, they wanted to reach out to people and wanted the children to study, and they chose this as a part business, not really a profit-making business, but a part business where it is at least it gives them something to look forward. So I think the NEP has benefited everyone. I think there is a new way of thinking. There is a lot of discussion There's a lot of thoughts. And then the most important is that it has closed the gap between Indian education system and the global education. So now we are almost doing all those things with other schools were doing across the world. You know, it was only the privy of some elitist school where the principals will go to perhaps Finland or England or Germany and come back with some best practices, and we would do it. But for schools, whether it's a government school or whether it is a private school, all of them to follow the NEP, because that thought and vision becomes the country's vision. So I think everybody is a winner in this. I wouldn't say there's just one segment. Yes, for the management, there is a lot of investment, but that investment will also give dividends. Because, you know, as you say, if there are schools which are offering a lot of new programs, so they will never have a dearth of admissions or, you know, parents coming to that school to put their students, which in another way would also be, you know, their margins of making a certain amount of profit out of it. But per se, schools are not, you know, places to make profit. So I would say it is just, you know, putting in the whatever has been earned for the betterment of the students, and the best dividends that a school owner would get is when his alumni says that I studied in so and so school.
Right. Interesting. Thank you so much, everyone. I think, you know, just to kind of sum up what we have discussed so far, you know, we started with Chris's take on, you know, the acceptance of the failure, the way students have already, you know, begun their innovations and innovation across, you know, different parts of the globe. And then we had, you know, discussed on very interesting aspect, which I am going to take back today, is on the skill hubs, how each school can become a hub to impart innovation and entrepreneurship, and breaking all the boundaries there. And then Shruti ma'am has also, you know, given very interesting insights on how can we do the cross-culture collaborations. Each school is having their own expertise. How can we, you know, upskill and upscale at the resources within the school. And then we discussed on, you know, if at all the curriculums can be set up, or if at all we can have this as an integrated part. Innovation or entrepreneurship can be an integral part of the curriculums. We spoke about NEP. We had, I think we discussed on one interesting aspect on how do we incentivize the innovators and also the teachers through models like, say, TSOP, the stock options program for the students and the teachers. I think it's a great start for our Bright Talks. Thank you so much for taking your time out on a Saturday and being a part of the first episode of Bright Talks. So stay tuned. Every Saturday morning, 11 to 12, we are going to have interesting topics and we are going to debate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.